The night was cold, the rain heavy, and the streets of the alien colony were almost empty. Only the sound of dripping water from broken pipes filled the silence. In the corner of a ruined building sat a young alien orphan, her small frame shaking. As she hugged her knees, she had no family, no home, and no one who cared if she lived or died. Her name was not even remembered by many. They simply called her the Orphan, as if that word was enough to define her whole life. When she was a child, her parents had been killed during a raid. Nobody adopted her, nobody even gave her food. She survived on scraps, on things thrown away by others. Every day she walked through the market, her stomach empty, her hands trembling. When she tried to ask for food, the vendors shouted at her. Some called her unlucky. Some told her she was cursed. The children of other families mocked her, pulling her hair, throwing stones, and laughing. She never fought back. She only cried quietly, because even her tears had no value in the eyes of others. As the years passed, the orphan grew older, but nothing changed. She was now no longer a child, yet no one saw her as a woman. To them, she was still the same useless girl with no future. In their society, young women were valued for marriage or work, but no man ever looked at her. No elder ever spoke kindly to her. It was as if she was invisible. One evening, the orphan sat on the steps of an abandoned temple, watching the sky. Her thin arms wrapped around her body for warmth. The stars above shone bright, and she wondered if somewhere, far away, there was someone who would notice her, someone who would treat her as more than just a burden. She whispered to herself, "Why was I born if no one will ever care?" Her voice was lost in the wind. That same night, the colony was preparing for something unusual. A group of humans had arrived for peace talks. The alien leaders were nervous, for humans were known for their strength, their strange courage, and their unpredictable nature. The whole colony gathered near the council hall to see these visitors. The orphan stood far away, hiding behind broken walls. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, but her eyes were curious. She had never seen a human before. She expected them to be cruel like her own people. But when the humans walked by, tall and strong in their armor, she noticed something strange. They did not spit at her, they did not laugh, they simply passed, their eyes scanning the crowd with calm focus. Among them was one soldier. His face rough but kind, his eyes sharp like steel, moved across the people, and for a moment, they stopped on her. The orphan froze, her heart racing. She was used to stares of hate or disgust, but this was different. His eyes did not carry insult. They carried curiosity, almost concern. It was the first time in her life someone looked at her as if she mattered. She quickly turned away, her cheeks hot. "No, it can't be," she whispered. "He is human. Why would he care about me?" Yet in her chest a tiny spark lit up, a spark she had never felt before. Later, when the humans entered the hall, the orphan crept closer, standing in the shadows. She listened to the leaders speaking about alliances, about dangers from other empires. She did not understand much, but she kept watching the soldier. He stood tall, silent, but his gaze was sharp. He seemed different from the others. He seemed alive in a way she could not explain. The night grew darker, the rain still falling outside. The orphan walked back to her broken shelter. She lay down on the hard ground, covering herself with a piece of cloth she had found in the trash. But her thoughts would not rest. For the first time in many years, she did not only think of her pain. She thought of those eyes, the human soldier's eyes, that had seen her, really seen her, and deep inside, though she did not know why, she prayed to the stars that she would see him again. The morning came with a pale sun, weak behind the clouds. The colony was busy, merchants shouting, children running, guards patrolling. In the middle of this noise, the orphan girl moved like a shadow, thin and unnoticed. She tried to walk fast, hoping to find something to eat before someone pushed her away. She went to the market, her hands trembling as she reached toward a piece of fruit that had rolled onto the ground. Before she could touch it, a merchant's son kicked it away, laughing. "Stay away, cursed orphan," he shouted. Others joined in, pointing at her, mocking her ragged clothes. She lowered her head, saying nothing, She was used to this cruelty, but each time, it still cut her heart. She walked away slowly, her empty stomach aching. Around her, young alien women moved gracefully, their skin decorated with bright patterns, their hair tied with jewels. Men watched them with admiration. Families spoke proudly about their daughters' marriages, but when the orphan passed, no one spared her a glance. And if they did, it was only with disgust at the water well she tried to drink. A group of young alien men blocked her way. One of them sneered, "You think you are a woman? No man would ever touch you. No man would ever take you. You are not even worth breeding." Their laughter echoed through the street. She turned away, her eyes wet. She wanted to scream, but her voice stayed trapped in her chest. That night, as the colony prepared a feast for the human guests, the orphan watched from afar. The square was filled with light, music, and the smell of food. She pressed her back against a wall, her body cold. She watched women her age dance gracefully, their movements admired by all, she thought. If only I was like them. Maybe someone would see me. Maybe I wouldn't be alone. Her thoughts were interrupted when the human soldier appeared again. He stood near the council leaders, his tall frame glowing under the torches. His eyes moved over the crowd, serious and sharp, and once again, they landed on her. The orphan froze, her breath caught. It was impossible. Out of hundreds of shining faces, he saw her, the one nobody wanted. For a brief moment she felt warm, but fear quickly replaced it. She whispered to herself, "No, he will turn away like everyone else. He will see I am nothing." But he didn't. His gaze lingered, steady and calm. And then, to her shock, he gave the smallest nod, a gesture so simple yet powerful. The orphan's heart raced. She pulled back into the shadows, pressing her hands against her chest. No one had ever acknowledged her before. Her mind swirled with questions. Why would a human notice me? Why not the others? Later, as the feast ended, she wandered back to her shelter. The laughter of the colony still rang in her ears. Families together, friends eating, men and women smiling, yet none of that belonged to her. She lay on the cold floor, staring at the cracked ceiling. The soldier's nod replayed in her mind. It was strange, almost dangerous, because hope was something she had long buried. The next morning, the colony elders spoke loudly in the square. The humans bring their power, but they also bring danger. We must follow tradition, we must not mix with outsiders. Their words were firm, and the crowd cheered in agreement. The orphan listened quietly from behind. She felt their warning was also against her. Though she had no connection to the soldier, somehow she knew that their eyes would turn hateful if anyone discovered even a glance exchanged between them. Her fear was proven when a group of alien women noticed her watching the humans. They smirked. "Do you think a human would want you? Even our own men reject you. You are a shadow, not a woman." Their cruel laughter struck her harder than any blow. She ran back to her ruined corner, tears sliding down her cheeks. Yet, as she cried, her thoughts returned again to those human eyes. For the first time in her life, she had felt seen. That single nod was like fire in her chest, warming the ashes of her broken spirit. She whispered into the silence, Maybe I am not invisible." The colony carried on as normal, the feast forgotten, the humans busy with council talks. But for the orphan, everything had changed. She no longer saw herself only as a rejected child. Somewhere deep inside, a seed of courage had been planted, a seed watered not by pity but by the rare look of a stranger who refused to look away. The next day began like all others, with the orphan girl moving quietly through the colony. Her stomach was empty, her hands cold, but her eyes carried a strange fire, a memory she could not push away. The human soldier's gaze had followed her even into her dreams, and she woke with his nod echoing in her heart. She tried to forget it, she told herself. It meant nothing. He is a human, and I am nothing. But no matter how hard she tried, the warmth of being seen, truly seen, refused to leave by afternoon. The humans had begun to explore the colony under the watch of alien guards. The streets were alive with whispers. Some admired the humans' tall forms and strange armor. Others feared them. calling them dangerous outsiders. But the orphan only thought of one, the soldier whose eyes had lingered on her. She hid in the shadows as the group walked through the market. The soldier walked at the back, his hand resting on his weapon but his face calm. The other humans talked among themselves, but he was silent, alert. When his gaze shifted, scanning the alleys, it landed once more on her. The orphan's breath caught. She tried to turn away, but it was too late. He had already seen her. To her shock, he did not just look. He moved, slowly, carefully. He stepped away from his group, heading toward her. The guards called after him, confused, but he lifted a hand signaling them to wait. The orphan froze, her body pressed against the wall. Her heart pounded so hard she feared he might hear it. Nobody had ever walked toward her like this. Not with kindness, not with purpose. When he stopped in front of her, she dared to raise her eyes. His face was rough with scars, his uniform worn from battle, yet there was no cruelty in him. His voice was steady, low. "Are you hungry?" She stared, shocked by the question. She had expected anger or mockery. Not this. Her lips trembled, but no words came. Slowly, he reached into a small pack and pulled out a piece of dried ration. He held it out, his hand steady. His eyes told her he would not force her. The choice was hers. For a long moment, she only stared. Nobody had ever offered her food without insult. Her people threw scraps at her as if feeding an animal. But this human, he waited patiently. She reached forward with shaking fingers and took the food. Her voice cracked. Why are you giving this to me?" The soldier's expression softened. "Because you need it," he said simply, as if that answer was enough. Her throat burned, tears filling her eyes. She wanted to hide, to run, but something stronger kept her standing. For the first time in her life, she felt like more than an unwanted shadow. Behind them, the guards muttered angrily, "Human. Leave that orphan, she is nothing but trouble." One even stepped forward to pull him away, but the soldier's eyes turned cold, sharp like steel. "She is not nothing," he said firmly. His tone carried weight, and even the guards hesitated. The orphan's heart shook at those words. She is not nothing. No one had ever said that about her. She clutched the ration close to her chest as if it were treasure. The soldier gave her one last look before returning to his group. The guards followed uneasily, but none dared argue further. The orphan watched him go, her body trembling. Her tears fell silently, but for the first time they were not only tears of pain. They carried something else. Hope, fragile but alive. That night she could not sleep. She sat in her ruined shelter, staring at the piece of ration she had saved. She could not bring herself to eat it. It was more than food, it was proof that someone, even if he was human, had chosen to care. She whispered into the dark, "Why him? Why now?" Her voice was soft, but her heart was loud with questions she had never dared ask before. Days passed, and she noticed the human soldier again and again. Sometimes their eyes met across the crowd. Sometimes he nodded slightly, never speaking in front of others, yet those small moments became her strength. When others insulted her, she held on to his words. She is not nothing. The alien society mocked her more, whispering that she was cursed, that even humans pitied her, but they did not understand. It was not pity she had seen in his eyes. It was recognition. He had looked at her as if she was real, as if she existed beyond her suffering. For the orphan, the world was slowly changing. A tiny flame had been lit inside her soul, a flame that told her she was worth more than rejection, that maybe, just maybe, she was not invisible anymore. And though she could not yet imagine it, this was only the beginning. The encounter that had started with a single glance and a small piece of food would grow into something far greater, something strong enough to shake not only her lonely life, but the walls of the entire colony itself. The sun rose over the colony, painting the sky in soft shades of gold. The alien streets were alive with noise, but in one forgotten corner sat the orphan girl, staring at the piece of ration she had saved. She had finally eaten half the night, before the taste still fresh on her tongue. It was not just food, it was kindness, something she had never tasted before. For the first time in her life, she was waiting for someone, not for scraps or insults, but for a face, for a human soldier, whose eyes had changed everything. She told herself she was foolish. He was a soldier, a visitor, and she was just a shadow. Yet her heart refused to listen. It beat faster at every sound of heavy boots on the streets. By midday, her silent hope was answered. The soldier appeared again, walking at the back of the human group. His gaze was steady, alert, but when it fell on her, it softened. He slowed his steps until he was near, and as the others moved ahead, he quietly stopped. The orphan lowered her head, unsure how to speak. Her hands trembled. She whispered, "Why do you look at me?" His reply was calm, his voice low so the guards would not hear. "Because you are alone." Her chest tightened. No one had ever noticed her loneliness, not even her own people. She looked up, her eyes wet. "Everyone says I am nothing." The soldier's brow furrowed. "They are wrong," he said firmly. "You are alive. You are strong. You survived when others would not." She almost laughed, a bitter sound. "Strong. I am weak. I am unwanted. I am not even seen as a woman here." He shook his head. "Strength is not in how others see you. Strength is in surviving when the world tries to crush you, and you are still standing." Her breath caught. His words were like fire against the cold walls around her heart. She did not know what to say. Instead, she whispered softly, "Why do you care?" The soldier hesitated, then answered honestly, "Because I have seen many people, but very few who carry pain like you and still keep walking. That deserves respect." Those words planted something deeper inside her. Not just hope, but a sense of worth. For the first time, she felt like she was not just living in the cracks of the world. She mattered, at least to him. Over the next days, their strange friendship grew in small, secret ways. Whenever he passed, he would offer her a piece of food. Sometimes he gave her water from his flask. Sometimes he simply stood near, silent but present. Each moment, though brief, became precious to her. The alien guards noticed and whispered among themselves, "Why does the human waste time on the orphan?" Some laughed. Others warned him, "She is worthless. Stay away from her. She will bring shame to you." But the soldier ignored them. His eyes never changed when he looked at her. One evening, as the market quieted and the streets emptied, the orphan sat on the steps of the old temple. The soldier approached and sat a short distance away. He did not touch her, did not frighten her. He simply sat, the silence between them gentle instead of heavy. Finally he spoke. "Do you have a name?" She froze, her lips parted, but no sound came. It had been so long since anyone had asked, so long since she had spoken it aloud. At last she whispered, "Lyra?" The soldier nodded slowly, as if memorizing it. "Lyra," he repeated. His voice carried the name with weight, not like an insult, not like a curse, but like something precious. Her chest tightened and she bit her lip to keep from crying. She dared to ask, "What is your name?" His eyes softened. "Call me Ryan." From that night, they were no longer just the orphan girl and the human soldier. They were Lyra and Ryan, names shared in quiet, a bond hidden from the world. But bonds have a way of being seen. One day, as Ryan handed her a small piece of bread, an elder alien spotted them. His eyes burned with anger. "Human." He shouted, "Do not waste your kindness on her. She is cursed. She brings misfortune. She is no woman, only a stain on our people." The words cut like knives, and Lyra lowered her head in shame. Her old fear returned. But before she could retreat, Ryan stood firm. His voice rang clear. "She is not cursed. She is not a stain. She is Lyra." The elder spat, furious. But Ryan's eyes burned with such power that he dared not step closer. Muttering insults, the elder walked away. But the damage was done. Whispers spread faster than fire through the colony. That night, Lyra cried alone in her shelter, not from shame, but from fear. Fear that Ryan would turn away now that everyone was against her. Fear that the fragile bond she had found would break. But when she looked up, she saw him standing quietly in the shadows, waiting. His voice soft. "Do not hide from me, Lyra." Her tears fell harder. But this time she stepped forward. She chose not to run, not to hide. For the first time she let herself believe that maybe her life was more than rejection. Maybe in this strange friendship there was a future waiting to be born. The colony was restless, whispers spreading like fire through every street. People spoke not of the humans' weapons nor their power, but of one strange thing: the human soldier who gave attention to the orphan. To the people, it was shameful, a disgrace. How could an outsider see value in a girl they had all rejected? Lyra felt the weight of those whispers wherever she walked. The stares grew colder, the insults sharper. Children mocked her louder, and the elders looked at her as if she carried disease. Yet deep inside, she also carried something new. For, no matter what the world spat at her, she could not forget the soldier's words. She is not nothing, but the leaders of the colony were not satisfied with whispers. They gathered in the council hall, their voices raised in anger. "The human must be warned," one said. "If he continues this, our people will see us as weak." Another growled. "He insults our traditions by giving attention to her. She is not a woman. She is a burden." The council summoned the humans, demanding a meeting. The air inside the great hall was heavy. The elders sat high on their stone seats, their robes flowing. The humans stood on the floor, their armor shining. Under the torchlight, among them was Rayan, his eyes calm but sharp. The eldest counselor spoke first, his voice cold. "Your soldier breaks order. He gives food to the cursed orphan. He speaks to her as if she has worth." His eyes narrowed. "This cannot continue. She is nothing. She is not one of us." Rayan's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, the human commander raised a hand. "We came for peace, not to interfere in your customs. If there is a problem, speak clearly." The counselor's voice turned hard. "The problem is simple. Your soldier must stay away from the orphan. She has no value. She is not to be treated as a woman. She is an outcast. If he ignores our warning, there will be consequences." The humans glanced at each other, uneasy. The commander turned to Rayan, silent, waiting for his reaction. All eyes fixed on him. Rayan's fists clenched at his sides. His voice was calm, but each word carried weight. "Your laws are your own, I respect them. But do not ask me to pretend I do not see a person standing where you see a shadow. She is alive. She is strong." "That is enough for me." Gasps filled the hall. The elders were outraged. "You dare challenge us in our own council?" One shouted. "Do not mistake kindness for strength, human. She is filth, and if you continue, you insult us all." Rayan's gaze did not waver. "If respecting life is an insult, then I stand guilty." The tension cracked the air like thunder. The commander quickly stepped forward, speaking firmly to calm both sides. "Our mission here is for alliance, not war over one orphan. We will honor peace, but we will also honor our soldiers' conscience." His words were diplomatic, but his eyes carried warning. Humans would not bow easily. The council ended in anger, the elders muttering threats. Outside, the alien guards whispered to one another. Some swore they would punish the orphan for bringing shame. Others plotted to drive her away. That night, Lyra sat alone in her broken shelter, her body trembling. She had heard the whispers. She knew the council hated her even more now. Fear gnawed at her. What if they hurt him because of me? What if they cast me out forever? As her tears fell, a shadow appeared at the doorway. Rayan. His armor was dusty, his expression tired, but his eyes softened when they found her. "You should not be here," she whispered, panic in her voice. "They will punish you. They will punish me. Please go." But he shook his head, stepping closer. "Let them threaten. Let them shout. They cannot tell me who I can see, or who I can care about." Her chest ached, torn between fear and hope. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why risk so much? For me?" He knelt so his eyes were level with hers, his voice steady. "Because you are not what they say. You are not cursed. You are not nothing. You are Lyra." Her tears spilled freely, and she covered her face, whispering through broken sobs. "No one has ever spoken my name with honor, not once." Rayan gently touched the ground between them with his hand, not reaching for her, not forcing her, just showing presence. "Then let me be the first, and not the last." Silence filled the broken shelter, but it was no longer empty silence. It was heavy with meaning, heavy with the weight of something forbidden yet unbreakable. A strange friendship had become something deeper, something dangerous. And though both of them knew the world outside, hated it, neither could turn away, for in that fragile moment, with the colony against them, the council warning him, and the shadows whispering doom, Rayan and Lyra had chosen a path that could no longer be undone. The days after the council's warning grew darker for Lyra. The colony had always rejected her, but now the hatred was louder, sharper. Everywhere she walked, she felt eyes burning into her back. Some whispered curses, others shouted openly, "Cursed orphan, stay away from the humans." Children threw stones again, and even the merchants chased her from the market. But through the storm of cruelty, one thing remained constant: Rayan's presence. Whenever he passed, he would stop for a moment, offering food or water. Sometimes he only gave a quiet nod, but that was enough to steady her heart. She was no longer completely invisible, and in that small spark of recognition she found the strength to keep walking, yet danger was waiting. A group of alien raiders had been watching the colony from the cliffs nearby. They were not allies, not part of the council's order. They were outcasts themselves, ruthless and hungry for loot. They saw the humans' arrival as weakness, an opportunity to strike one evening. Just as the suns began to set, the raiders came. Screams tore through the colony as fire spread across the outer streets. Families rushed to hide, merchants abandoned their stalls, and guards fought desperately to hold the gates. The sky turned. Red with flames, Lyra, sitting alone near the broken temple, heard the chaos. At first she froze, fear wrapping around her like chains. She had survived raids before by hiding, by staying silent. That was what she knew: disappear and live another day. But this time was different. Through the smoke and shouts, she saw Rayan fighting alongside the human soldiers and alien guards. His movements were sharp, his blade cutting through raiders with practiced strength. But even he could not be everywhere at once. A group of raiders broke through the line, heading straight for the unguarded side of the colony. Children screamed as they ran, a mother stumbled and fell, a young boy froze in terror as a raider raised his weapon. Without thinking, Lyra moved. Her body reacted before her mind. She snatched up a broken metal rod from the ground and ran toward the boy. Her legs trembled, her heart pounded, but she did not stop. With a desperate cry, she swung the rod and struck the raider's arm. The weapon clattered to the ground. The boy scrambled away. The raider snarled in fury, turning on her. His size dwarfed her thin frame. His blade rose high. For a moment she thought it was the end, until another voice cut through the fire. "Lyra." Rayan charged forward, his blade flashing. He struck the raider down before the weapon could fall on her. Breathing hard, he turned to her, eyes blazing not with anger but with shock. "Why did you do that?" Her chest heaved, sweat dripping. From her face she whispered, trembling, "Because he was just a child. I couldn't let him die." For a moment silence hung between them. Then Rayan's expression shifted into something fierce yet proud. "You're braver than they will ever admit." More raiders surged through and the fighting raged on, but word spread quickly. An orphan girl had stood against a raider, the same girl the council had called worthless, the same girl the people mocked as cursed. Families who had once spit at her now whispered in disbelief. Lyra did not stop. She kept helping where she could, pulling children into safety, guiding the wounded. Her thin arms shook with exhaustion, but she refused to give. For once, she was not hiding in the shadows. She was standing in the fire. By the time the raiders were finally driven back, the colony was scarred with smoke and broken walls. The people gathered, shaken and weary, and in the middle of them stood Lyra, her face covered in soot, her hands cut and bleeding, but her eyes alive with something new: courage. The elders looked at her with thinly veiled disgust, unwilling to admit what they had seen. But the whispers of the common people could not be silenced. The orphan saved a child. She stood against a raider. Maybe she is not cursed. The same mouths that had mocked her now spoke in confusion. Later, when the fires were out and the wounded cared for, Rayan found her again near the temple ruins. She sat on the steps, her body weak, but her spirit still burning. He knelt before her, his voice low. "You risked your life today." She looked at him, exhaustion heavy. In her eyes, "I was afraid, but I couldn't stay still. I didn't want to be nothing anymore." Rayan's gaze softened, and for the first time he smiled, a small but real smile. "You never were nothing, Lyra. Tonight you showed them, even if they don't want to see." Her tears welled, but this time they were not tears of shame, they were tears of pride. Tears of a girl who had always been rejected, yet had proven her worth with her own hands. And though the council would soon tighten its grip, though whispers of anger still brewed, the people had seen something they could never erase. An orphan, girl who stood in fire, and a human soldier who believed in her. After the raid, the colony slowly began to rebuild. Burn stalls were repaired, walls patched, and families buried their dead. But in every corner, whispers about the orphan girl spread. Some still spat curses, calling her cursed and dangerous. But others spoke with hesitation. She saved a child. She stood against a raider. Her name, once never spoken, now carried weight in secret conversations. Lyra herself felt different. For the first time in her life, she had not hidden. She had acted, she had fought. And though her body still ached with cuts and bruises, her heart felt stronger than ever before. She no longer saw herself only as a shadow. But with this change came danger. The council was furious. Their power depended on tradition, and tradition said she was nothing. If the people began to see her differently, their authority would weaken. They gathered in silence, plotting how to remind the colony that the orphan had no place. Meanwhile, Rayan continued to find her. Every day he came with food, with water, with words that burned away her fear. Their meetings were still quiet, still hidden from most, but they were no longer simple acts of kindness. A bond was growing, one that neither of them could deny. One evening, as the sky turned deep red with sunset, Rayan found Lyra sitting by the broken temple. Her arms were wrapped around her knees, her eyes thoughtful. He sat down beside her, the weight of his armor heavy against the stone. For a long time, they sat in silence, the sounds of the colony faint in the distance. Finally, Lyra whispered, "Do you ever regret noticing me?" Rayan turned his head, his eyes steady. "Never." Her throat tightened. "Because of you, everyone hates me more. They say I bring shame. They say you are blind." Rayan's jaw hardened. "Let them talk. They are blind, not me." Her eyes burned with unshed tears. "Why me? Why not one of their daughters? Why not someone beautiful, someone respected?" His voice softened. "Because I do not see them, I see you. You are not just an orphan, Lyra. You are strong, you are real. You are worth more than all their jewels." Her heart raced, his words wrapping around wounds she thought would never heal. She lowered her gaze, whispering, "No one has ever said that before." Rayan leaned closer, his voice quiet but unshaken. "Then remember it, because I will say it as many times as you need." Silence stretched between them. But it was no longer the silence of loneliness. It was a silence heavy with meaning, with something both terrifying and precious. For the first time, Lyra felt not only noticed, but chosen. Days turned into nights, and their bond grew deeper. When she laughed softly at his rare jokes, it was like a sound she never knew she had. When he taught her how to hold a blade, showing her how to stand strong, she felt pride instead of shame. And when he called her name, it was as if the world had finally remembered she existed. But the colony noticed, and anger grew. Families muttered that the human had been bewitched. Guards spat that he dishonored their kind. The council whispered of punishment. Each day, the weight of danger pressed heavier on them. One night, as they sat together near the ruined temple, torches flickering in the distance, Lyra finally spoke what had been buried deep inside. Her heart, "Rayan, are we friends or something more?" The question trembled on her lips, but it could not be stopped. Her heart pounded, terrified of his answer. Rayan did not answer at once. His eyes studied her, calm yet searching. At last he said slowly, "Lyra, I came here as a soldier. I expected to fight wars, not to find you, but now I cannot imagine leaving without you." Her breath caught, her chest rising and falling fast. No one had ever said such words to her. No one had ever wanted her. She felt the world tilt, as if her life had suddenly broken its chains. Tears filled, her eyes not of sadness but of something fierce. "If you stay with me, they will hate you," she whispered. "If you choose me, they will never forgive you." Rayan's gaze was steady. "Then let them hate. Let them never forgive. I will not let you be alone again." Her tears spilled freely and she covered her face, but she was smiling through them. A smile she never knew she could have. For in his words she heard the truth her heart had longed for. She was not invisible, not unwanted. She was loved. And though the colony's anger was rising, though the council's threats grew sharper, in that hidden corner of the ruins, two souls bound themselves together. Their bond, fragile yet unbreakable, was no longer just a strange friendship. It was something greater, something strong enough to challenge the weight of a whole world.